Am I recording? I don't even know. You can really tell that I haven't done this for a few months. Hello. How are we, darlings? I hope we are doing good. I hope we are making the most out of life, whatever that means for you at this given moment. The reason why we are today here in North Sydney is because I'm filming for you a Q&A video because I've been in Australia officially for 3 years. Well, not exactly today, but in a few days. Today is what is the date today? 12th of August 2025, which means that in 6 days exactly, it's gonna be 3 years since I moved to Australia, which seems kind of unreal. It seems like it's been longer, but in other perspectives, it actually seems like it's not been that long at all, because every year I do something special, and 3 years seems like a, I don't know, significant mark in a sense. You know, it's not 5 years, but it's not 1 or 2, it's just 3, like somewhere past the middle to 5 years in the country. And this year, as a special thingy, I thought of just doing a Q&A, because also I took a break from making YouTube videos. Who doesn't know, I do indeed have a Czech YouTube channel, which I started a few months ago. No, actually a year ago now. I've been taking a break just because it no longer seemed aligned with what I want to be doing on socials, but I miss it at the same time. And I just thought, do you know what? Why don't you go back to making YouTube videos on your English channel? Because I used to do that. I feel like I'm yapping once again a little bit too much. So let's cut to the case straight away. Actually, I feel like I wanted to say this, but then I just went straight away to another topic without actually finishing my thought processes. But the reason why we are in North Sydney in front of this lookout is because this is like the one place which still reminds me what I have done. Let me explain. Obviously, when you move to your dream city, your dream country, the few first months, maybe a year, maybe 2, depending on your personal experience, I guess, you will feel this insane amount of euphoria. Like, it's unreal, like you're living the dream. But that slowly fades out because our brains just get used to stuff, right? And this is still one of the only places where I come sit down and I remind myself of what I've achieved, because now being the age I am and looking backwards 3 years ago, I did this so young. I don't think I was recognizing that back then, that I was just so freaking young, and I moved my ass across the whole world to the other side of the world. My mind was just like, wow, do you get it? Like, you just made one of your biggest life dreams come true. And that feeling and that emotion is still connected to this place, and it's a very precious place. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Now let's do questions. Let's start simple, yet very complicated at the same time. This question says, are you really happy? Which obviously is a big question. Short answer, yes. Especially this year, I feel like 2025 brought so many things, so many good things so far for me and my life. Obviously, there are bad days, there are neutral days, and then there are really euphoric, amazing, gorgeous days with gorgeous experiences, gorgeous memories. But of course, it's life, guys. And there are also very dark days. Overall, though, yes, I am happy. Definitely compared to how I felt back in the Czech Republic, I am super happy. I would say I found my place where I am able to find peace pretty often and pretty regularly, and at this point pretty easily, at least up to my current standard of peace. Definitely the move across the whole world to Australia and making this dream come true solved the big problem of not living in a country that I was happy in, that I was thriving in, that I found the society and the people and the like societal standard of thinking very suffocating. And this is how I don't feel anymore because I am now living here. Woohoo. Hopefully that made sense. Because yeah, Czech Republic, when I was living especially, I don't know how much have things changed. Seems like it's changing, you know, slowly but steadily. But when I was moving, things were still pretty conservative in a lot of big topics. And I just knew that I don't want to be in Czech Republic and live there my whole life. And definitely I didn't want to live there and wait until things change. And that's why I pursued the dream of moving to Australia. The second question will be still slightly connected to the first one. And it says, how do you feel when you live in Sydney? Are you sometimes lost there? Sorry for my English. First of all, girly pop. Never apologize for trying another language. Never apologize for trying. That's a big thing in Czech Republic. I feel like people just shame other people for trying to speak another language, and that is so toxic. That could be on the list of things that I really did not like in the Czech Republic, and I had personal issues with it, like growing up at school and stuff. I definitely talked about it in the past, but nobody cares. Literally, if you step out of your country to an English-speaking country, nobody will care if you are making mistakes. They will actually appreciate that you are trying to learn their language and that you are speaking more than one language. Because let me tell you the reality, a lot of people who are from English-speaking countries, they cannot speak any other language than English. So for them, it's kind of cool that you know more than one language. They will appreciate you for that. So never apologize for that. Anyways, to answer your question, I think generally speaking, I always felt comfortable in Sydney, even back in 2020 when I moved here for just a few months to try it out, to kind of set the goal of moving here after my high school graduation. So I feel pretty all right. I feel like actually like this is my home, and it always felt like home. You know, guys, you need to understand that I probably never ever in my life felt at home when I lived in the Czech Republic, and I lived there my whole life almost, right? I can't really say that anymore, but you know what I mean. When I first visited Sydney and Australia, I just suddenly felt at ease. I was like, oh my God, wait, is this how you are supposed to feel? Like, is this how peaceful you are supposed to feel when you feel at home? And that feeling pretty much is still hovering around. It's still there, and I'm very grateful for it. So if this question is meant to be in like directions or if I'm able to get around, yeah, of course. Also, we have Google Maps in this modern world and Apple Maps and all of the maps, and it's just quite all right to get around, because also data is not ridiculously expensive like in the Czech Republic here, so you actually can have data. If I ever feel lost in Sydney, it's usually because you definitely can feel the pressure of a big city from a capitalistic point of view. Majority of people will be on their grind day to day, and as a person who is not very money driven, I'm achievement driven. I would say I'm very ambitious, and I definitely have my big goals and my big dreams, but majority of those dreams just are not set in money. And living in a city which is a very much a capitalistic base of Australia can feel very pressuring and can feel very heavy at times. But what I learned throughout the 3 years that I've been here is that you need to create your own bubble. You need to kind of detach yourself from that, because that's not Sydney. That's just another part of this capitalistic world that happens to be placed in Sydney. The city otherwise is so beautiful, and there are so many places that bring me joy and peace. But if I ever feel lost, this is usually why, that I let the heaviness of the capitalistic aspect of this city get to me. Oh, I just found another question that is pretty similar. When did you truly start to feel at home in Sydney? I feel like I kind of answered that. Yes, Sydney kind of always felt like home from an emotional point of view. But if we are talking practical, I would say that I settled myself in February, maybe March 2023, when I moved to my first like least official rental, my first like actual proper share house. Until then, I was living either with friends. Yes, I was of course still paying rent, and then also with parents of a person that I knew. And with the start of 2023, I also found myself a proper job. You know, it just 2023 was kind of a milestone for the like practical part of settling in. But emotionally, Sydney was always my home. Was it hard to settle in? Again, I'll probably sound a little bit like a broken record, but nothing would be personally for me harder than staying in the country I was born in. It was definitely rough. 100%, especially as I mentioned before, the first 6-7 months that I've been here. But I feel like I didn't even realize how hard it was when I was living it in the moment. Let's say, long story short, the first 2 places that I lived in were not particularly a great time. Was it super bad? In some moments, yeah. In some moments, it was super bad, actually. Was it still better than the reality I could have been living if I stayed in the Czech Republic? 100%. Came with its own challenges. Like definitely the first 7 months, the biggest challenge was that I got stuck for 5 months living with parents of a person that had a big effect on my mental health in a way that I haven't experienced before. And that was a definitely big learning curve and learning experience for me, just like discovering something completely new about myself, something new being triggered mental health wise that I did not know until then how to work with. To be honest, I feel like I learned how to work with my mental health in the past year or so. So don't get me wrong, parents of that person, lovely. And I am super grateful that I had them at that time of my life. My life would be just so much harder if they didn't take me in for that period of time. But at the same time, the reality is that the person that I lived with was not exactly a positive milestone in my mental health journey. LOL, let me know if you want a story time because it's quite a interesting story. But if I was supposed to dive into it right here, right now, this video would be probably 2 hours long. What surprised you the most when you moved? Seriously, does my mind always have to go blank whenever I ask myself a question or I am asked a question? Actually, 2 things do come in mind. The clubbing culture here, so bad. Guys, if you are traveling from Europe, you are used to a certain standard of social life, nightlife, clubbing life, clubbing culture, dancing culture, music culture. Clubbing in Sydney will not be it, and you'll be very disappointed. As well as in the like variety of clubs, it's very subtle. Clubbing culture here is very subtle. People don't really go crazy. Second thing was that I pretty early on realized that COVID has changed Australia quite a bit, like actually quite massively. Probably COVID affected the whole world, right? There's no doubt in that. But I did have the comparison of Australia before COVID because I pretty much left in 2020 when COVID started. And then I came back when COVID was just like finishing here. When I came, people still were wearing face masks, etc. It might be just me, but I feel like COVID definitely changed the way people are social here. Let me try to explain. Back in 2020, I feel like I had so many more human interactions on daily basis, like casual ones, like somebody would come talk to you on the street, you know, just wholesome little moments. And when I came back, I feel like that was kind of gone. And I was suddenly feeling like, is it me? Was I like Delulu back in 2020 or is it actually different? And I think it was actually different because just now I feel like it's kind of getting back to what it was in a sense that I am getting approached by people on the streets and I am having casual conversations with people just randomly day to day, which I get for introverted people is probably the worst nightmare ever. But I think, naturally pretty extroverted and I do thrive on wholesome social interactions like this. Obviously, not all of them are wholesome, but when you learn how to like set your boundaries and kind of brush people off when you don't, not even brush people off, just like stick to your boundaries. And when you don't want to talk to someone that you get approached by, just set a boundary or communicate it to them. When you learn that, you are pretty all right, at least in busy settings. You know, I'm not talking about dark, narrow alleyways at night. And I also started approaching people myself. If I feel like somebody catches my eye and seems quite interesting, I try to respectfully approach them and have a conversation, you know, meet people like this. Because that's another thing that surprised me, is that building friendships in Sydney is super, super, super hard. I feel like everybody has their established groups of friends and they are very closed offish. And when you get yourself into a group of friends, you can almost constantly feel that you are that person who came the last and is on the edge of the circle. And don't even get me started on like one-on-one friendships, right? It's very hard to build up that close relationship with people. And there's definitely a lot of things affecting that. I think one of the major ones is the fact that people lack the time and probably even like energy resources. And they just, if they don't put establishing deep connections and deep friendships as their priority in life, they just lack the resources, time-wise and also energy-wise, to invest in them. For that reason, also tend to stick with old friendships from high school, I don't know, sometimes work. It took me 2.5 years to find the level of deep friendship that I was used to back in Czech Republic. Obviously, I'm now comparing my adult life here in Australia and my like teenage, non-adult life, whatever, back in Czech Republic, and that's also a big factor. But still, I do have friends back in Czech Republic that I am very close to that I didn't meet in high school. I met, for example, in work, but the thing is, like, I wasn't seeing them every day, and I still was able to build those friendships, and I still have them, right? Even after 3 years of long distance. And here it took me 2.5 years to get a deep friend. And what do I mean by that? Obviously, I do have friends and I did have friends, but it never felt like I had a friend that I could call anytime if I was feeling lonely, if I was feeling sad, and just like call them and be like, would you like to just come over if you have time and just like share the presence with me? We don't have to do anything hectic. We can just like be in each other's presence, not talk, you know, do whatever, just like share the space with each other. I felt like I did not have that friend, and that made life pretty lonely here. Until recently, when I approximately like half a year ago, let's say that, finally found a friend and established a really deep friendship with a friend who is that. Like, I know that I can call her up anytime, and if she doesn't pick up, she'll call me back, you know. But like, I know that I can rely that we are there for each other and we share this amazing connection that we both know that we don't want to go away. And previously, even if I had deep friendships, it always felt like I wasn't actually sure if I can rely on that friendship to be there in like 5 or 10 years time. And I know it's probably not great to like have that in your mind, like having that pressure of having friendships of relationships that long. But to be honest, that's what I crave in life. And that's what I want. I want to be establishing friendships that will be so deep we will not want to let go. So yeah, to summarize it, that was a big surprise when I came to Sydney, and it took me 2.5 years to find a friendship that is comparable to the depth of friendships I had in the Czech Republic. So yeah, definitely creating those bonds, those deep bonds that you can rely on, is a pretty hard thing here in Sydney, 100%. Doesn't mean it's not doable. You just need to be patient, and you actually have to put active effort in, and both sides have to do that. That is the hardest part of Sydney. With this being said, I would love to give a big shout out to all of my friends, even the ones that are still back in Czech Republic. Thank you for maintaining a long distance relationship with me. I appreciate that so, so, so much. And honestly, hope that we never lose that connection. And as well to all of my friends in Sydney, because I appreciate that you decided to, take that active energy and that time and dedicate it to building what we have together. Oh my God, I just forgot that there was a question asking about it, and it says, is it difficult to find for yourself deep connections with people? So whoever asked that, here's your answer. What visas are you currently on? I am very fortunate and I am grateful for this privilege, like literally every day that I live here. I am an Australian citizen because my mum was born in Australia. So yeah, I am a citizen by descent. Don't know, probably not much else to say with that here, other than I'm thinking of all of the people struggling with visas currently, because I have friends who are dealing with visa problems, and it is hard. It is hard to stay in this country if you are not an Australian citizen. So I'm thinking all of you, holding my thumbs for you. I know you say crossing your fingers or whatever in English, but in Czech, we are actually holding our thumbs for luck. So I'm holding my thumbs for you. Hopefully your visa journey will end up exactly how it is supposed to end up and how you wish for. Do you want to stay in Sydney forever? Wow, hectic question once again. I don't know how forever looks like, in my life. And I think I learned as a person that I can't stress about what will forever look like. I had to gain a mindset where I am literally focusing on every day, step by step, day by day, and focusing on what is right here, right now, while pursuing my dreams, of course. So like pretty much like taking steps and making decisions based on what my future plans are. But when it comes to where will I live eventually, for example, if I want to start my family or something, I honestly do not know, because there is positives and negatives to Sydney, and the negative I already mentioned, and that is just like the pressure and the busyness of the city. But at the same time, I grew up in a small town back in Czech Republic. It kind of moved around, but majority of my life I lived in a small town in Czech. And I didn't find that experience great. So I always dreamt of having a family in a big city. But now that I know the reality of a big city, I'm not too sure about it anymore. I currently don't even have a partner. So I feel like I can't even be thinking about stuff like that. As of this moment, I know that I want to be in Sydney as long as it will bring me joy and make me happy, which it is currently. So I'll probably stay for a few more years. And another thing that I know 100% for sure is that I will definitely not be moving back to the Czech Republic. Definitely not for a longer period of time. Will I go visit? Possibly. Have I been back ever since I moved? No. Do I want to go back? Yeah, because I miss my friends. So, but I would much rather take them all here, I really do not miss Czech Republic, guys. I really did not thrive there. I don't miss the environment. I don't find it special. If I go on a tour of European countries one day, yes, will I stop there? 100%. I'll say hi to my friends. I don't know, if anybody wants me in a Czech podcast so I can share my journey of moving to Australia and how am I currently building a business here, I would do that. But if I was supposed to go purely just there, is it worth the money? I don't think so. Hardest and most empowering moment so far. I'm so glad that a question like this popped in there, because the answer might be a little bit spicy. It's where we are getting to the dark stuff. Can you tell that sarcasm is my coping mechanism? What was the hardest but also very empowering moment after I overcame this period of time was actually a whole year and maybe a few months in 2023 bled through into 24, where I am pretty confident to say that I, for the first time in my freaking life went through depression. And it's quite insane because when you are in that moment, when you are depressed and you've never experienced depression before, it is actually very hard to even realize that you are depressed. And to me, it's shocking how we actually don't get enough display of how day-to-day like depression looks like how people with depression who are like functioning look like, because until that moment I honestly don't think I fully realized how depression looks like, because the stereotypical point of view in my head was like, oh, people who have depression are literally home, not being able to get out of bed, etc. But then I got hit with this massive truck of depression, and it seemed like normal life at first, right? Until it became too dark and you're like, oh, what? I probably am not good. Without like trauma dumping or oversharing a little bit too much, I'm just gonna say that I think in my case, it was literally caused by money, my finances, alongside with like capitalism and the dark side of capitalism. I love how I mentioned capitalism probably like 6,000 times in this video already, but also the transition to adult life. Definitely that like naive expectation of what adult life looks like that I had before I moved was nowhere near close to what reality is. And I think that hit me. And also I was expecting that life will be progressing so much faster than what it actually is. Like life is pretty slow. Then you also have those periods of time where everything happens at once, right? If you look at it from a long-term matter, like it takes time for things to happen, especially the good things and the things that you truly like care about. And I think I had to realize that, and unfortunately it was through a process of depression combined with burnout as well. I know that a part of why I ended up depressed and burnt out was because I was literally working so much that I did not have time for myself, for my friends, and for basically anything that was important to me or brought me joy in life. And then I literally with that lost the concept of happiness. Like, guys, I don't even know how to explain this. I don't think it's possible actually, because it's so nasty that it's actually not possible. The way I would put it is that I personally lost happiness. I believe that I've never been happy before. Like the concept of happiness just felt so unreal. I felt like so out of touch that I didn't believe that I was ever happy and that I'll ever be happy again, and that the state that I was living in will be forever. And that just got so dark so quickly. Very glad I'm not in that place anymore. If you're asking me how did I get out, I pretty much hit rock bottom, and sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to realize that you are doing really bad and that something has to change. And I started then looking into my habits and started working less, which didn't really help with the financial aspect of my depression. Even though I had less money, I started gaining that sense of tiny little things of everyday life, bringing joy to me, and my concept of happiness started coming back. I fully got out of it in September last year. So very dark period of time. Glad I'm not there anymore, and I hope I will never be again. Cheers to enjoying small parts of life and not be too money focused. Why did I do that? The most empowering moment so far is definitely this year. I can't stress it enough, but 2025 has been treating me so gorgeously so far, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because I don't think I felt this happy in my whole life. And it's a very unreal thing for me to say, especially after what I've been through in the past three years, right? So I'm very grateful that 2025 so far is a good year for me. What specifically is it? It's I started listening to what I want, not what is a responsible decision to make, what is a logical decision to make, not a decision that will make my family happy, what I think I should be doing with my life because that's how society teaches us to do it. You know, I need to focus on what I want myself, my core self, and I need to be fueling my decisions with my core values. When I started doing this, I literally feel like my life turned by 359 degrees. Can't say 360 because then you end up in the same spot, you know? So what do you say instead? 180? It just turned around, okay? There's still dark days, and I sometimes do get flashbacks of days where I get a little bit scared because I'm like, oh my God, is my depression coming back? Am I burning myself out? But overall, coming back to catching those subconscious thoughts and working with them actively has worked for me beautifully. And I know that I am now in control of my happiness and the way I feel, you know? Again, not on all days, but on majority of days. And that is what creates balance. Part of that empowering year is the fact that I started working on my own business. It's called Self Love You Know. It's my big passion project. Hopefully one day will be the thing that I want to. It's been amazing because I don't think I fully ever believed that I would be capable of starting what I started this year. And I can't wait, but I will have to be patient and wait because things are slow. But I can't wait until I bring it to real life. And I'm really excited for that. Again, can't even stress it enough in words. The emotion that I'm feeling inside of myself right now probably won't come across the camera, but I'm guys really happy about it. So yes. And I'm studying currently. That's a new thing as well. The last section of this Q&A will be me giving myself questions that I would ask myself 3 years ago, looking forward to now. I said it in such a complicated way that I hope it made sense. The first one is, are you still struggling with explaining emotions in English? This was such a struggle for me when I came to Australia and had to function in English 24/7. I wouldn't say my English was bad, but definitely when you come from a different country to kind of give you a point of view for everybody who doesn't speak another language, you pretty much like think in your own language and you are translating your mother language to English in your head before you say the sentences. So then whenever I would be arguing with someone or even wanting to explain how do I feel whenever I felt uncomfortable, or even when I had like pleasant things to say, I just got so anxious because I could not find the right words to describe how I felt quickly. And generally speaking, I couldn't speak as quick as I would want to. And looking for the right words would just take me so long that I literally psyched myself out. I just became a little bit antisocial person, a little bit of a introvert, which was a big jump for me, being used to being quite a big extrovert to now being in a completely different country with a language that, yes, I can speak, but I don't feel like super natural speaking. And I suddenly felt like I lost my social skills in a sense. I'm now totally fine, and I would say even maybe better in my social skills than what I was back in Czech Republic in my mother's language. But it was a journey. It was also a ride. Another struggle, maybe another thing that surprised me when I came. I know I would 100% most definitely ask myself if Australia is still everything I have dreamt of. And the answer is yes, and also no. Because as I mentioned previously and earlier in this video, I came pretty much a kid in Australia. As a kid in Australia, oh my God. And I had such delusional point of views and like opinions and expectations from myself and from my life, and that just needed all adjusting. So definitely the delusional dream of my life in Australia is not what is my reality now, but did Australia and moving to this country fulfill the urge to live in a place that I love, where I can be myself without feeling the need to be someone or to fit in? Yes, in that sense, Australia 100% lived up to my expectations. Hi! That's customer of my ex-workplace. And he obviously, by his facial expression, had no idea that I have quit. Oi, oi. Okay, next. Did the move across the world fix your traumas? Or AKA, do you ever feel like you ran away from your problems by moving to Australia? I think this question sparked or like came to my mind because I remember having a conversation with my PE teacher back in high school, in the last year of high school. And she was pretty much telling me like, don't you feel like you are running away from your problems by moving to Australia? I remember it was one of those like last PE classes before the end of the mid-year holiday, school holidays, something like that, guys. I don't actually remember the details, but she asked me this question and I thought about it. And first, being a young, immature, growing up person, I got pretty defensive about it. I was like, oh, of course not. Like, what do you mean? I'm not running away from my problems. I still feel like I wasn't, in a sense. I was just pursuing a dream life that I know that couldn't be established in the Czech Republic. But now having the retrospect, I definitely was leaving traumas behind by moving away. And a little bit of wisdom that I can give you if you are doing the same. Yes, a lot of things will get solved, and those issues that you had back in your original country will not be issues anymore. That will feel so much lighter. You'll be so much happier, but don't expect that new stuff and new traumas and new problems will not arise in the new place that you are moving to. I was definitely in that way putting Australia a little bit on a pedestal. Again, it was part of my like naive, like childish vision, which again, I think is normal. You know, we all kind of expect a certain reality in our adult life that can be fulfilled or can not necessarily be fulfilled. And the thing is, Australia, when I lived in the Czech Republic, was always the light at the end of the tunnel. So no matter how bad I was feeling, no matter what traumatic or hard situation I was going through in Czech, I always had hope and I always had my light at the end of the tunnel, and that was moving to Australia. And suddenly when those like deeply rooted traumas that all of us carry trauma, right? Because everybody will have a different one. And for me, the stuff that I am carrying and I was carrying, whenever it got triggered here in Australia, I obviously did not have the light at the end of the tunnel anymore because that got done, that got finished, that got ticked off. This experience also taught me that you cannot see happiness in achieving goals and achieving milestones in your life, because there will always be another wall to jump over, and you need to find happiness like in your everyday life and in your here and now and in who I am today. Look at me being all Pinterest quotey. Yes, I do indeed sometimes feel like I've been through a lot, but at the same time I know that I could have gone through so much more, and there's also people who have gone and are going through so much more, and I'll still go through so much more looking forward in my whole life, right? This is not the end. There will be struggles down the track, and who knows, maybe there will come something so big that I'll be like, oh, you thought that you went through something hard. Well, this is probably much harder. Last but not least, darlings, are we a CEO of a self-love organization yet? Yeah, I did indeed start dreaming of having like a self-love business or a self-love organization probably when I was like 17. And several years later, we are still not a CEO of a self-love organization, but are we working on it? Yes. This is your reminder that things and goals and your passion projects will take time. From my experience, the more passionate you are about something, the longer it kind of takes you to actually make yourself go and do it, just because especially if you are someone struggling with like an imposter syndrome, and I really struggled with that for a really long time, just like thinking that I am not good enough. Yeah, literally telling myself like, who am I to be doing the things that I dream of, which is, bullshit. Nobody really has it figured out in life, and anybody who is starting something completely new will not know what are they doing, and they will just like be learning through trial and errors. I'm definitely on the journey, and once I'll be watching this video back a few years later, hopefully I'll be watching from a place where I have achieved what I've dreamt of, or what am I dreaming of currently, and what am I working on currently, and this will make me super proud. Me a few years ago, she would be very proud that we actually took the step and we started, and that we are in a process of at least trying to work on achieving our passion dreams and what we actually want in life. So yeah, this is your reminder that being scared is totally normal. Everybody gets scared, but being scared doesn't get you anywhere, right? Like, if you take the step and you fail, I wouldn't even say fail, because as long as you try, you haven't failed. It just hasn't worked out, right? But even if it doesn't work out, you'll have like this massive experience and learning curve in your life, in your like experience bank. And if you don't do the step and you'll just continue being scared and never actually proceed towards your dreams, you'll stay stuck in the same space where you are unhappy. And I get that that's the comfort zone, but sometimes our comfort zones are not good for us, and definitely not good for our future achievements and for what is waiting for us in the future. Being scared is part of the process. Go and do it scared, and always ask yourself, this question helps me, right? I always, whenever I'm fearful or I don't know if I should do something, I always ask myself, what is the thing that you actually want? Based on that, I go deeper to the given situation that I am in. And then if a fear comes up within me, I ask myself, what would be the solution, or what would be the thing that you would do if you weren't afraid, if you weren't scared? Okay, you all. This was a hot matcha. Now it's more of an iced matcha. Because girl yaps so much that everything gets cold in the process of her yapping. But anyways, thank you so much for watching up to this point. Appreciate you all. I hope you enjoyed. Actually, I had an awesome day, I must say. I kind of looked myself in a filming bubble and forgot that time was real, and forgot that I actually need to do other stuff, which is always a good thing, when you kind of dissociate and you just let your mind and body rest while doing something productive, creative at the same time. And you just get to, experience another day in life that is a little bit unusual. So thank you so much for being here with me and watching this video. Love you all. Thank you for sending me questions. Have a lovely life. Take care of yourselves. Make decisions that are fueled by what you truly want. And maybe I'll see you in a similar video in 2 years when I'll be filming a 5-year anniversary of living in Sydney. Or maybe I'll be living somewhere else. Who knows? Okay, well, love you all. Thank you. Appreciate you. And bye.